New York City, 1898. The fire began in Ward 6. Dr. Elias Varga, head physician of St. Agatha's Hospital for the Incurable, lit the match himself. His journals would later describe the act as purification, a final solution for the 47 patients whose screams had become an affront to God. But the flames did not behave as flames should. They burned blue and cold, slithering across the walls like serpents. The patients, strapped to their beds, did not cry out. They laughed, their voices harmonizing into a hymn that shook the foundations. When the roof collapsed, the city buried the ruins, paving over the charred bones with subway tracks. But the fire did not die. It grew, it learned. And when the first train rattled through the tunnels in 1904, the flames tasted coal smoke and human sweat and hungered. Lieutenant Mara Voss was elbow-deep in engine grease when the call came. She'd been restoring her grandfather's 1968 Ford pickup, a relic from his days as a firefighter, and the radio in the garage crackled to life with the dispatcher's monotone. All units respond to reports of smoke at 72nd and Broadway. Possible underground fire. Her hands froze. 72nd and Broadway. The old subway grate. The one her grandfather had warned her about. Copy, she replied, wiping grease on her jeans. En route. At the station, her team assembled under the jaundiced glow of streetlights. Davis, the rookie, bounced on his heels like an over-caffeinated terrier. Harper, the medic, scribbled in her ever-present notebook, a habit Mara had learned meant she was nervous. Only Chief Ramirez stood motionless, his face a mask of practiced calm. Listen up, Ramirez barked. This isn't a drill. The 72nd Street tunnel's been sealed since '72. If someone's down there, they're either suicidal or stupid. Stay sharp. Mara adjusted her oxygen tank. Why's it sealed, Chief? Ramirez's jaw tightened. Electrical fire. Took out half the line. City couldn't afford repairs. Liar, she thought. Her grandfather's rasping voice echoed in her memory. They called it a fire, Marashka, but it was alive. It ate them. And Ramirez, he knows. The grate was a gaping maw, its iron bars twisted like broken teeth. The chain meant to seal it hung in rusted curls. Someone's been here, Davis said, crouching to examine fresh scratches in the concrete. Recently, Mara's flashlight beam caught a dark smear near the entrance. She touched it, sticky, iron-scented. Blood. Let's move, Ramirez ordered. The stairwell swallowed them whole. The air thickened with each step until breathing felt like sucking syrup through a straw. Mara's radio fizzed. Turn back! She halted. Did you hear that? Hear what? Davis asked. The voice came again, warped but unmistakable. Her grandfather's cigarette-ravaged rasp. Marishka, it's a trap. Static, Ramirez said too quickly. Keep moving. At the platform, their lights carved jagged shadows from the dark. The walls were a tapestry of scars, not graffiti, but claw marks, deep enough to finger. Harper traced a spiral. These aren't animal. Rats, Davis said. Big ones, like in the movies. A wet, gurgling laugh echoed from the tracks. They found him near the third rail, a man in a Con Ed uniform, his face a melted ruin. His radio, still clipped to his belt, sputtered a loop of static and wet, choking sobs. Jesus, Davis whispered. What happened to him? Harper crouched, gloved hand hovering over the body. Burns, but look at his clothes. No singeing. It's like the heat came from inside him. Mara's light caught something on the wall, a name etched into the concrete. Otto Voss. Her grandfather's name, in his handwriting. We need to go, Davis said, backing toward the stairs. This isn't our job. This is a crime scene. Ramirez stepped between him and the exit. Our job is to save lives. That means finding whoever's down here before this place collapses. Understood? The team nodded, but Mara lingered. On the tracks, half buried in gravel, lay a subway token from 1972. She pocketed it. The tunnels branched like arteries, their walls streaked with oily residue that shimmered in the flashlight beams. The air reeked of burnt sugar and rotting meat. Thermal's picking up a heat spike, Harper said, frowning at her handheld camera. 1,200 degrees, 50 yards ahead. No flames? Davis asked. No, it's ambient, like the walls themselves are burning. They rounded a bend and froze. The tunnel ahead glowed blue, not the warm orange of fire, but the cold electric blue of a gas flame. It rippled across the ceiling, the floor, the rails, painting the world in bruise tones. Back up, Ramirez ordered. Slowly, the fire moved. It peeled itself from the walls, coalescing into a humanoid shape, 8 feet tall, its limbs too long, its head a flickering corona. Where its face should have been, there was only a hollow scream. 6 souls, it hissed, the sound like steam escaping a corpse. 6 for the pyre. Davis raised his axe. What the hell is that? Go, Mara shouted. They ran, the fire lashing at their heels. Mara glanced back and saw it hurting them, driving them deeper into the maze. They stumbled into a maintenance room. Its lockers burst open like rotten fruit. Inside, Mara found a leather-bound journal beneath a drift of ash. October 14th, 1972. The men think I've lost my mind. Perhaps I have. The fire speaks. It calls itself the custodian. It says it was born in a house of pain and has fed on screams long before the subway. It wants me to bring others, 6 souls to renew the pact. I refused. But last night it showed me Timmy drowning in the harbor. My boy, my sweet boy, his lungs filling with salt water. It can reach beyond the tunnels. God forgive me, I'll do what it asks. Mara's throat closed. Timmy Vance, the son of Captain Elias Vance, who'd led the 1972 crew, had died in a boating accident in 1973. Davis peered over her shoulder. That's impossible, unless... Ramirez snatched the journal. We're leaving. Now. You knew, Mara said quietly. You knew about the pact. The chief's face hardened. I know that if we don't move, we die. Now move. The fire cornered them in a signal room, its glass panels shattered, human shapes pressed against the walls. Not reflections, but things trapped in the concrete, their mouths stretched in silent screams. Harper's thermal camera exploded, shards embedding in her cheek. It's here! The custodian filled the doorway, blue light bleeding from its hollow eyes. 4 souls remain, it intoned. Ramirez stepped forward. Take me. Let the others go. Chief, no! Mara lunged, but Harper held her back. The fire embraced him. His skin blackened, peeled, dissolved. For a heartbeat, Mara saw his skeleton glowing like a coal. Then he was gone. The flames dimmed. The custodian vanished. Davis vomited. Harper prayed. Mara stared at the ashes and saw a subway token, pristine in gold. 1972. They found the others in a service tunnel, or what was left of them. Engineer Troy's helmet sat atop a pile of ash. Proby Jenkins's boots stood laced and upright, his bones dust inside. The custodian's voice slithered into Mara's skull. Your grandfather begged. He offered you instead. She gripped the token in her pocket. Liar. See? A vision seared her mind, her grandfather Otto kneeling before the blue flame. Take me, he begged. Not her, never her. The fire laughed. Avos for Avos, the pact is renewed. Mara's radio crackled. Davis's voice, broken. Lieutenant, where are you? The tunnels narrowed, walls pressing in like the ribs of a buried beast. Mara's flashlight flickered, its beam shrinking to a feeble glow. The air tasted of burnt copper, and every breath seared her lungs. Davis trailed behind, muttering disjointed prayers. Harper had gone silent, her face pale beneath streaks of soot. They reached the maintenance hub, a cavernous chamber where the tracks split into skeletal fingers. At its center loomed a column of blue fire, roaring silently as it stretched from floor to ceiling. Inside the flames, shadows writhed, human shapes distorted and flickering, their mouths gaping in endless screams. Mara stepped closer, her reflection warping in the heat. One of the figures turned, a woman in a firefighter's turnout coat, her face melting like wax. Sarah Kwan, the journalist who'd vanished a year ago. Her eyes locked onto Mara's, and for a heartbeat, the flames parted. Sarah's lips moved. "It's not fire, it's a mouth." Davis grabbed Mara's arm. "We need to go, now." But the chamber trembled. The fire pulsed, and the shadows inside it surged forward, clawing at the edges of the flame as if desperate to escape. A voice boomed, shaking the ground. "You owe me a debt." Harper screamed as the fire split into tendrils, lashing around her ankles. Mara swung her axe, severing one, but two more replaced it. "4 souls remain." Davis dragged Harper back, but the flames encircled them, tightening like a noose. They fled into a side tunnel, collapsing in a service alcove strewn with rusted tools and yellowed newspapers. Mara's hands shook as she unfolded a brittle front page. Fire Captain vanishes in subway tragedy, 1972. Captain Elias Vance and his crew were declared missing last night after responding to reports of smoke in the 72nd Street tunnel. Rescue teams found no evidence of fire, only a single helmet, fused to the tracks by heat. Beneath the article, a photo of Vance's crew. Mara's breath caught. Standing at the edge of the frame, younger but unmistakable. Chief Ramirez. "He was there," she whispered. "In 1972. He lied." Davis stared. "How? He'd be what, 80? "The custodian," Harper said, her voice hollow. "It gave him time, in exchange for souls." Mara's grandfather's words echoed. "It keeps them alive to feed." A clang echoed down the tunnel. The fire was hunting. They found the missing Con Ed workers' crew in a signal room, their bodies arranged in a circle. No burns, no wounds, just empty eye sockets and hands clasped in prayer. At the center lay a modern smartphone, its screen cracked but glowing. Mara played the last video. A man's face filled the frame. Chief Ramirez, decades younger. "It wants 6, he whispered, sweat glistening on his brow. "Always 6, 1 to open the door, 5 to keep it fed." Vance was the first. "I'm next. God help me, I don't want to live forever." The camera panned to a symbol etched in blood. A spiral with thorns. "You know what you must do." The custodian's voice vibrated in Mara's bones. Davis backed against the wall, hyperventilating. "It's in my head. It's inside my head." Harper gripped Mara's shoulder. "We have to end this. Ramirez said it's a wound. Maybe we can cauterize it." Mara thought of the journal, the asylum, Dr. Varga's experiments. Pain could purify the soul. "Fire," she said. "We burn it out." The fire awaited them in the hub, its column now thrice as wide. The shadows inside had multiplied. Faces Mara recognized. Proby Jenkins, Engineer Choi, Captain Vance, her grandfather. "Choose," the custodian commanded. "Sacrifice one, and the others go free." Davis raised his axe. "I'll do it. Take me." "No," Harper snapped. "It's a trick. It wants us to choose. That's how it grows." Mara stepped forward, the subway token burning in her palm. "You're not a god. You're a leech, and I'm cutting you off." She hurled the token into the flames. The fire shrieked. The column buckled, shadows tearing free as the chamber quaked. Mara's mind flooded with visions. Dr. Varga's scalpel, Ward 6's laughter. The first pack sealed in blood. "You will regret this." "Already do," Mara muttered, priming a flare. The flare ignited the residue on the walls. A chemical cocktail of old fuel and decay. Fire erupted, orange and normal, racing toward the blue column. "Run!" Mara screamed. The tunnels convulsed. Concrete cracked, bones erupting from the walls, rib cages, skulls, the remains of St. Agatha's patients. The custodian's screams merged with theirs as the flames collided. Davis didn't make it. A tendril snatched him mid-stride, dissolving him into ash. Harper vanished in the smoke. Mara crawled, blinded, until cold air hit her face. She tumbled onto the street, sirens wailing. Epilogue: The Keeper's Curse. Weeks later, the city declared the tunnels stabilized. Mara's burns healed, but the scars itched, blue veins spidering beneath her skin. She quit the force, but at night she hears the custodian in the hum of her fridge, sees shadows coil in her peripheral vision. Subway tokens appear in her pockets, warm and gleaming. And when she sleeps, she dreams of blue fire.